Welcome to a special edition of the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department's Best of the Badge. You're about to hear some amazing stories of officers who displayed extreme courage. Now, one of the saddest days in the history of our department, when two of our own and a heroic citizen who tried to fight back were gunned down in a cowardly ambush attack. Lieutenant Sasha Larkin helps tell the story of the officers who quickly devised a plan to stop the two killers from taking more lives.
I remember the sun was shining, it was warm out, and the call comes out that there's shots fired at Cece's Pizza.
Receiving a 415A at Nelson Store at Cece's.
Officer Brett Brosnahan arrives at Cece's Pizza first. When he does, the people that are standing outside immediately start telling him that the bad guy has run across the street towards the direction of Walmart.
He's at the rear of the store, rear of the store.
I ran south across Stewart, past a little strip mall where more people were standing and screaming and pointing, south again, which then brought me around to the backside of the Walmart.
Officer Brosnahan arrives, and when he does, he gets to the rear entrance of Walmart, and he has numerous people pointing him in direction of the rear doors saying, the bad guy's in there, the bad guy's in there.
We have an active shooter inside the business, 201 North Nellis.
It was at that point I was able to finally grab an employee of Walmart and ask, who is it, where are they, what's going on? And he goes, man, someone's inside killing everybody. Here, I'll show you where. And without further conversation, that employee just took off and ran back inside Walmart. So I ran in with him.
He did a great job of using the walls that he had as cover and the aisleways as concealment to then find his way where he encounters the female.
In that moment, her left hand started to raise in my direction, and I could tell this is a gun. There's not just one person, there's two, and I found number two. I'd already swept past her with my weapon, anticipating that long shot. So at that point, I started to sweep back towards her. As I did, I started to fire. Simultaneously, she started to fire.
While that's happening, we have other units then arriving at the front doors of Walmart.
We made entry into the front of the store. As soon as we made entry into the front of the store, that's when we heard the first volley of gunfire going off. And later on, we found out that that's when Officer Brosnahan was engaging with the female in the back. I told Officer Huff, I got to get to the camera room.
I know that I can't stay in a two-on-one gun battle and succeed. So I chose to disengage at that moment. I went back the same direction that I came.
I pull my police vehicle up to the back. I jump out. At this time, you know, I run Officer Brosnahan.
We came up to make entry into the camera room. I remember reaching down and grabbing my radio, and I got on the radio, and I said on the radio, I need somebody with the key to the surveillance room. And that's when Ryan Fryman said, I have your key. And he commenced to kick in the door.
That's all I knew at the time, that we're going in.
When we went into the double doors, I covered down what I guess would be to the far northwest corner.
I grabbed a hold of the camera and zoomed in, and that's when I found that it was Sergeant McKenzie.
They located me in the store, and I kind of motioned to where the suspects were.
Sergeant McKenzie had a very tough job because as he went the other direction, he runs into a whole group of civilians that were sheltered in place, and he didn't know if they were good guys or bad guys and how he was going to get them out in a safe manner as well. As
I confront them, I show them, I'm going to tell them, let me see your hands. You know, I could see the fear of God in these people. At this time, I realized that they're not the suspect. They're just caught in a store just like everybody else. I told him I'm going to get him out of here as soon as I can. When they went into Walmart, he makes the tactical decisions that they are also going to split in the directions that they go. We go in between the aisles, so we're in between the two end caps of the aisles, inside the aisle, and my radio blares. It goes shh, and as soon as that happens, we start getting gunfire.
Hey, give me the radio. We have shots fired inside the store. Hold your radio traffic.
Two officers had long guns. Officer Tim Gross and Officer Zach Beal.
So basically where the suspects were at was at the intersecting part of an L, more so, with Corbin and Bethard on one side, me and Tim on the other, and then Sergeant McKenzie right in the middle, so they pretty much had nowhere to go.
By this time, my guys are up and running the camera room.
Officer Nickel and Officer Fryman are able to work those cameras and give immediate real-time updates to our cops inside Walmart as to where the threat is, what they're doing, and in what direction they're shooting.
We have to be calm, we have to be cool and collective on giving this information out.
I was sitting in the double door and he shot a couple rounds, sucked back in real quick. As soon as I had sidestepped and I had a clear view of the aisle, he starts firing, and as soon as he started firing, I had my EOTech, which is my optic, rested right on his chest, and I squeezed the trigger.
The shot is taken, and really it's the shot that saves the day.
All right, copy. We have 2 suspects that are down.
Every day before June 8th, I was really excited to be at Northeast because it's a great place to learn and develop as a new supervisor or a new officer, because we get action calls every day.
On June 8th, I've talked to many people about it. It was devastating, obviously, and it felt for me like I lost my innocence in a way.
No leader ever thinks they're going to send out 12 and bring back 10. And on that day, not all of my men got to come home.
We hurt. Like I said, we hurt as a department, as an agency, as a community. But I could only imagine what their family feels like.
I think mostly about Alan and Igor. I think about their kids, their wives, their families, how this is just completely devastated.
It's tough, but both Alan and Igor were great friends of mine.
Truth be told, they will live in our hearts forever. But I couldn't be more proud of the actions that my men and women took on that day. From training, to the way they conducted themselves, to just truly the things that they did to support each other to get through those moments.
They were great warriors. And I know that in my heart that they would want me to continue to fight.
The bonds and the friendships that were born on June 8th will never die. And Alan Beck and Igor Soldo will motivate us, will help us strive to reach a new level of excellence, and will keep our agency remembering their legacies forever.
I'd give everything back right now so those 2 dudes could be walking the face of the earth again.
We salute everyone who responded on that day. Officers Beck and Soldo will live in our hearts forever, along with Joseph Wilcox, the citizen who fought back and was killed inside the Walmart. It's not uncommon for officers to arrive at the scene of a fire before the fire department. In this next incident, seconds mattered when a woman was trapped inside of a burning home.
I was operating on patrol in the gang enforcement detail in the area of Jay and Washington when I observed smoke coming from a building not too far from me. So I made an approach to check if there was occupants. And as I approached, there was a female standing behind a wrought iron gate, and I was unable to open the door. So at that point, what I did is I got on the radio again, asked for a code red and additional units, and some type of breaching tool.
I could see the flames on the roof from the other side of the buildings or the houses.
When I got out of my car, I got information that there was possibly another subject trapped in the back.
And I could hear the female screaming inside.
I ran up to the door and I tried to grab the door and pull on it, and I ended up burning my hand. While I was doing that, Detective Prager ran to the trunk of the vehicle and he retrieved these bolt cutters. We were then able to get the bars bent out of the way and reach in and pick her up and pull her out through the door as the flames were making it to the front of the house. It was then that Detective Prager and myself got her by the arms and the legs and carried her through the front yard and down the street to an awaiting ambulance.
It was definitely gratifying. Like I said, the screams of somebody burning is something I'll never forget.
For me, it felt excellent. It was a good feeling. I'd been in a situation like that before where we lost victims.
At a certain point, you're willing to risk your safety for others.
Anybody in my position on this job would have done the same exact thing. It just happened to be that at that night, at that time, we were in the right place at the right time, and Detective Prager had the right tool for the job that night.
She was in grave danger. If we wouldn't have been able to get her out, she wouldn't have made it. She would not have made it.
Metro's K-9 team is always on patrol, but when Officer Dwayne Layton saw a woman crash her car on Russell Road, it was truly like something out of a Hollywood script.
I got out of the car and I could see going across all 3 lanes this like S-trail of a firewall that was about 6-7 feet tall. I mean, it was like something right out of Indiana Jones. It was crazy. And the fire trail went all the way up, straight up to the car, and I could see that the car was starting to get engulfed on the back as it was coming up on the hood. And I'm yelling into the car. I couldn't get any response from the person inside. You know, I don't know if this car's going to explode or not. The gas tank obviously had a leak in it from the fuel, but fumes are what causes it to blow, and I didn't know if there was fumes in the gas tank, so I'm thinking, we got to get this lady out of the car. So I grabbed this guy that was standing on the corner. I said, I need your help, come over here, and I gave him the rest of my fire extinguisher, and I said, I'm going to get the door open. As soon as I open it, I need you to spray underneath the car to keep the flames out. So I manipulate the door, I finally get the door open, and he starts shooting the fire extinguisher underneath there, and I'm yelling at the lady. Now I can see it's an elderly lady. I'm like, you need to get out of the car, get out of the car. And she's just sitting there. Well, now the fire extinguisher's empty, and the flames are starting to come back up underneath the car. Now I got the open door, so I'm like, we got to get her out of here. So I climbed in over the top of her and undid the seatbelt and grabbed her, and we yanked her out and drug her over to the curb away from the car. And she was just in a daze. She was completely unaware that her car was on fire and that she was locked inside it. My fear was that this lady was going to either get burned alive and that we wouldn't be able to make it. I was scared. I mean, we could have got hurt, but that's what we do. But she ended up being well. They took her to the hospital, and as far as I know, everything turned out okay with her. And so I think it ended well.
Suicide by cop is a danger our officers have faced too many times. In our next story, the safety of the public was at risk as well.
Metro says it appears the suspect fired several rounds before officers arrived.
There were 3 officers who returned fire.
They were confronted by a man holding 2 rifles.
When we first parked, and as I was getting out of my car and as Officer Coons was getting out of his car, dispatch announced over the radio that the suspect was possibly armed with a rifle.
After hearing his plan of going on a shooting spree until officers stopped him, my first thoughts were the close convenience stores, the bars, and the large stores like the Walmart that's right there.
As we were making our approach, we heard 1 gunshot from inside the apartment.
We heard the first shot. It sounded extremely loud.
The first thing that went through my head was, this is it. This is a call. This is the life or death call that we trained for.
He fired one. His first round went through the front window as we were making an approach, and it ended up hitting an apartment across the parking lot and lodging in a child's bed, who thankfully enough, just by chance, was actually sleeping with the whole family on the couch in the living room.
Then we heard the 2 follow-up shots as he came out, and then I remember thinking how weird it was that when our shots went off, it just sounded like a popping noise compared to the loud thundering noise that we'd heard from his shots.
Everybody immediately moved to cover in different directions. Officer Coons ended up to my left, Officer Geis ended up slightly to my left, and then I was kneeling behind a power box for cover. 2 more shots came out from inside the apartment. As I was giving out some radio traffic, that's when the suspect ran out of the breezeway. As soon as he was hit with verbal commands by Officer Coons and I believe Officer Raposo, his immediate reaction was to turn and raise a handgun at Officer Coons.
And as soon as the gun started coming up, the first thought in my head was, nope. I didn't want him shooting me, trying to kill me, or Officer Marzak, or Officer Geis, or Officer Rada that were there. I just knew that he had to be stopped.
Officer Coons engaged, and Officer Geis engaged, and I engaged with my rifle.
From his statements and the statements from his family, it sounded like he wanted to go out on a killing spree and take as many people out as he could.
But we were just glad that we got there and stopped him before he had a chance to actually hurt anyone.
So it seemed like an eternity in the moment, when in reality it was only a few seconds. Personally, I think we saved a lot of lives by being where we were that night.
Well, you can imagine how proud I am
to be the head of an agency that has those kind of individuals working for it. So I really appreciate their effort. I really appreciate your support here. As you see tonight, policing is a proud and honorable profession. We hope that you learned a little more about our men and women who proudly serve you and the community.
There are countless stories of bravery that take place every day. Thanks for letting us share a few of them with you today. We appreciate your support. And remember, the force is with you, always.